You know that feeling, right? That moment life just throws something at you, a real curveball you didn't see coming. Maybe it's like a career change that shakes you up or a personal setback that feels huge, or even just the daily grind wearing you down.
Yeah, the constant pressure.
And we all have this feeling deep down that we want to do more than just get through it. We want to come out the other side, maybe not untouched, but stronger, really adapt.
It's definitely more than just survival, isn't it? It's that fundamental human thing, wanting to grow from challenges, not just endure them.
Exactly. And that's really what we're diving into today, our topic, the mindset shift that boosts resilience. Learn to adapt and thrive in change. We're going to try and unpack what resilience really means, beyond the buzzwords, and crucially, look at how you can actually build a mindset that helps you flourish, even when things get tough.
Yeah, and we've pulled together some really fascinating insights for this. We're looking at psychology research, things like emotional regulation, cognitive stuff, but also drawing from high-performance sports and even how this applies to whole organizations, not just us as individuals.
So our mission really is to give you some practical understanding, maybe some tools for building a more flexible, resilient way of approaching life. Let's start with resilience itself, because I think the common idea might be a bit off.
That's a great starting point. Most people, when they hear resilience, they probably picture something like an oak tree bending in the wind and snapping back.
Right, or like a rubber band. Stretches, then snaps back.
Exactly, that bouncing back idea. But here's the interesting thing. The research doesn't actually have one single agreed-upon definition. It's more nuanced.
Okay, that's important. So if we dig into the research, what are the main ways people think about it?
Well, there are broadly two perspectives. The first one is kind of like that rubber band idea, resilience as a trait.
Like you either have it or you don't. Fixed.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it's some inherent quality. But that view is, well, pretty limited, don't you think?
Yeah, it doesn't leave much room for change. If you struggle, you're just not resilient.
Exactly, and that's why the second perspective is much more empowering, I think. Most modern psychology, like the American Psychological Association, sees resilience as a developmental process.
A process. Okay, so not bouncing back,
but successfully adapting through adversity, learning, growing, maybe even changing because of the challenge. It's active. Dynamic.
Ah, okay. So less rubber band, more like a river, finding a new path around rocks.
That's a great analogy. It's something you build, something you develop. And interestingly, you don't really show resilience when things are easy.
Right. You can't be resilient if there's nothing to push against. It only becomes visible when there's stress, adversity.
Precisely. So it's a learned set of skills, not just genetics. It comes from a mix of, physiological things, psychological stuff, even your environment. And the key takeaway, we can all work on this. We can develop it.
Okay, that's huge. So if resilience is this learnable process, what's the core mindset shift needed to actually start building it? What's step one?
That leads us straight to Carol Dweck's work on mindsets, the whole fixed versus growth mindset idea. That's really the foundation.
The fixed mindset. I think we all slip into that sometimes. That belief that our basic abilities are just set in stone. Like, oh, I'm just not good at math or public speaking. Not for me. It feels like a hard limit.
And that way of thinking, Dweck found, links really strongly to what Martin Seligman called learned helplessness. If you believe your effort doesn't matter because your ability is fixed, well, why bother trying?
Yeah, that sounds incredibly discouraging. It leads to getting stuck.
Research shows it often leads to less fulfilling lives, less success. So the alternative is this growth mindset. Seligman actually used to call it learned optimism.
Learned optimism. I like that. So what is the growth mindset specifically?
It's the core belief that your abilities aren't fixed. They're malleable. You can develop.
So instead of, I can't do math.
It's more like, okay, math is tough for me right now, but if I work at it, find the right approach, practice, I can absolutely get better. I can master this.
And that belief is linked to more success, more fulfillment. It gives you a sense of agency, but it's not like a switch, right? It's more of a spectrum.
Oh, definitely a spectrum. We might have a growth mindset in one area, say sports, but a more fixed one in another, like, I don't know, art. It varies.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a great example in one of the sources we looked at. A student really struggling with math, like convinced they were just bad at math. But they also played sports and knew that practice made them better there. So they started thinking, well, if practice works for soccer, why not for math? They applied that effort, changed their approach, and ended up passing the class way above average.
Wow, that's powerful. taking success from one area to challenge a limiting belief in another.
Exactly. It shows how experience can shift that mindset. So maybe the goal isn't just a resilient mindset, but a truly flexible mind. Being open, testing things, adjusting based on what you learn. Real adaptability.
For a flexible mind. I like that. Like adjusting the sails, like you said. Okay, so we have the growth mindset as the foundation. What are the key ingredients we need to actually build this resilience day to day?
I'd say there are 3 really critical pieces that emerge from the research. First, your ability to regulate your emotions. Second, the cognitive strategies you use to cope. And third, the power of your social connections, your support network.
Okay, let's start with emotion regulation. ERA, you called it. That feels vital. Our lives are just full of emotional triggers.
Absolutely. Every day throws emotional stuff at us. ERA, emotion regulation ability, is basically how well you can, recognize your own emotions, understand others, label them accurately, and then use strategies to manage or modify those feelings when needed. It's a big part of emotional intelligence.
And how does that link directly to resilience?
Well, the research is pretty clear. People with higher ERA scores tend to report feeling more resilient. It makes sense, right? If your emotions easily overwhelm you, it's harder to think clearly, make good decisions, and that obviously undermines resilience. Emotional dysregulation ramps up anxiety too.
Okay, but here's the encouraging part I picked up. ERA isn't fixed either, right? It can be taught.
That's the really hopeful message. Yes, it absolutely can be learned and developed. Things like social emotional learning programs, specific training, these can genuinely improve your ERA.
Could you give us a quick practical example, something someone could try?
Sure. A simple one is that idea of name it to tame it. When you feel a strong negative emotion bubbling up, anger, frustration, whatever, just pause. Take maybe 10 seconds.
Okay.
And consciously put a label on it in your head. Okay, I'm feeling really frustrated right now.
Huh.
Just doing that simple act of naming creates a little bit of mental space. It stops that immediate reactive jump and gives you a moment to choose a more considered response.
Name it to tame it. I like that. Okay, so managing emotions is key. What's the next piece? The cognitive strategies.
Right. Cognitive coping strategies. These are the mental tactics we use when facing stress. And one of the most powerful ones for resilience is something called positive reappraisal.
Positive reappraisal.
Yeah.
It's like finding the silver lining, yeah. Or looking for the lesson.
Exactly. It's the skill of reinterpreting a stressful situation in a more positive light. Not ignoring the bad stuff, but actively looking for meaning, growth, or maybe a hidden opportunity within the challenge. Research links this strongly to positive emotions and well-being.
And how do you cultivate that?
Mindfulness practices are actually a great way to build that muscle. They help you observe your thoughts without immediately buying into the negative ones, giving you space to reappraise. Another helpful strategy mentioned is to refocus on planning.
Shifting from just feeling overwhelmed by the problem to actively thinking about steps to address it.
Precisely. It makes sense because generally we think first, then act. So if you can learn to manage your thinking, your cognition in the face of adversity, you're setting yourself up for a more resilient response.
Okay, so regulate emotions, reappraise situations positively, focus on planning. What's the third ingredient? The social connection part.
Yes, the power of sociability in your support networks. And this brings up a really interesting distinction, often misunderstood, between grit and resilience.
Oh yeah, grit is everywhere lately. It's usually seen as this amazing quality, right? Pushing through obstacles using your own inner strength.
It is often praised, and look, having internal drive is valuable, but the sources we looked at suggest that relying only on grit, on just your own internal resources, can actually be problematic long term.
How so? If grit is about pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, what's the issue?
The issue is that it can lead to burnout if that's your only strategy. Resilience, in contrast to that purely internal focus of grit, is more about mobilizing your entire support network.
So resilience involves bringing in friends, family, colleagues, mentors.
Exactly, your whole network. Because let's face it, over the long haul, a strong, adaptable support system gives you way more resources to draw on than just your own willpower. Trying to grit through everything alone is often unsustainable.
So it's less lone warrior, more skilled team captain.
That's a good way to put it. And the research backs this up. Sociability, strong connections, they're significant contributors to how resilient people feel. It highlights how vital those external relationships are.
It makes you think about how shared hardship can sometimes bring communities closer, doesn't it?
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
Facing adversity together can really forge stronger bonds and foster collaboration.
Okay, so we've covered what resilience is, the mindset shift, the key ingredients, emotions, thoughts, connections. Now, the big question. How do we actually do this? How do we cultivate this flexible, resilient mind day to day? What are the steps?
Well, first, let's be real. This takes time. It takes conscious effort, repetition. It's not a quick fix or something you achieve overnight. It's practice.
Right, consistent practice, like any skill. So what's the overall goal we're aiming for with this practice?
The ultimate goal is sort of consciously aligning all your resources, physical, emotional, mental, even spiritual, to effectively engage with whatever situation you're facing.
Okay.
It means getting your thinking clear, organized, flexible, creative, bringing your best self to the challenge.
But that's tough when you're actually in it, right? Mm. When that challenge hits, the immediate reaction is often emotional fear, anger, shutting down, and that just clouds everything. How do you manage that initial storm?
That's where a really practical strategy comes in, used by some elite teams like the All Blacks rugby team.
Yeah.
They talk about consciously choosing between being in a redhead state, reactive, emotional, and a bluehead state, calm, clear, deliberate.
Redhead versus bluehead.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you choose blue when you're seeing red?
They practice a process. Step back, step up, and step in.
Step back, step up, step in. Break that down.
Okay, stepping back is about creating that pause, calming the immediate red reactivity. It's that name it to tame it idea in action. Then you step up mentally to get perspective, see the bigger picture clearly, objectively.
Right.
And then you step in deliberately, purposefully, fully committed to actually address the situation. It's about consciously managing those initial strong emotions so you can think clearly and effectively. You need that calm state to access your best problem-solving skills.
That makes so much sense. You can't strategize effectively if you're panicking. How do we get better at noticing when we're in that redhead state to begin with? Self-awareness seems key.
Absolutely. This is where situational awareness comes in. A powerful practice is simply reflecting on past challenges. Afterwards, think, what was I actually thinking then? What emotions were driving me? What did I feel physically? Doing that kind of reflection builds your awareness of your own patterns, your triggers. That awareness is the foundation for making different choices next time.
Okay, so build awareness through reflection. Then what?
Then you define what you actually want to achieve in the situation. What's the desired outcome? What's the gap between where you are and where you want to be? That creates a sort of constructive tension. Then you apply situational agility.
Situational agility.
Yeah, basically generating creative solutions to close that gap. Thinking differently, maybe accessing different emotions to motivate you, making sure you're physically up for it, brainstorming options.
And I guess you have to accept that the first idea might not be perfect.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be willing to test things out. Try a solution. Maybe it feels awkward. Maybe it doesn't work quite right. That's okay. The crucial step is then reflecting again. What did I learn? What could I try differently? What needs more practice? It's iterative. Learn, adjust, try again.
Like running experiments on yourself almost.
In a way, yes. And underpinning all of this, we really can't forget the basics. Physical well-being.
Ah, yes, the fundamentals.
Good sleep, proper rest, physical activity, decent nutrition. These aren't optional extras for resilience. They're essential. They provide the energy and mental clarity you need for all this emotional and cognitive work. You can't run complex mental software on faulty hardware, right?
Very true. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Now, we've mostly talked about individuals, but you mentioned earlier this applies to organizations too. Can you briefly touch on that connection?
Yeah, definitely. The core principles, adaptability, learning from challenge, thriving through change, they scale up. People resilience is actually seen as one of the key capitals of overall organizational resilience.
Alongside things like financial or operational resilience.
Exactly. Along with reputational, operational, financial, environmental, resilient people are a core asset. And smart organizations know this. They're moving beyond just ticking risk boxes and trying to build true organizational resilience as a strategic goal.
Which
means actively fostering personal resilience in their workforce, integrating it across the whole system. Because in today's world, with constant change and uncertainty, that ability to adapt and thrive isn't just good for individuals, it's critical for the survival and success of the entire organization.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been incredibly insightful. Let's try and pull together the main takeaways for everyone listening.
Okay. I think the core message is resilience isn't some fixed thing you're born with. It's a dynamic process, something you can learn and actively cultivate.
And the key is starting with that mindset shift.
Right, shifting towards a growth mindset, that fundamental belief that you can learn, adapt, and grow, especially through challenges. Then it's about building skills in managing your emotions, that ERA piece, and using positive cognitive strategies like reappraisal.
Don't forget the network.
Absolutely crucial. Leveraging your entire support network, not just relying on solo grit. And finally, intentionally cultivating that flexible mind through consistent practice, self-awareness, and reflection.
It's an ongoing journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on this week. We've talked about adversity being kind of necessary for resilience to even show up. What if, instead of always avoiding small, everyday challenges, you started consciously leaning into them? How might embracing those little bits of friction actually become your best training ground for building real, lasting adaptability and growth?
Something to think about. What really resonated with you today?
Maybe pick one small shift, one idea from our chat, and see how you can start practicing it this week. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.